Hi everyone, and welcome to 2021. One of my resolution goals this year was just really to start a learning blog on a programming language, in this case Python. I'm not really familiar with the language as much because I come from a very R-heavy background, so I thought that this would be a really great way for me not to really learn, but to summarize what I learned and really make it so concise that even new programmers can watch this and learn from it as well. So for those who have been really wanting to get into programming, I recommend giving this a watch because this is a very, very basic introduction to Python. So let's get started. So right here on the screen, what we have is something called Spyder. So Spyder is actually an integrative development environment for Python. So using this kind of environment makes it really easy to program. So when we just download Python straight up, what we get is something more of a command. So let me just show you what it looks like when I open up the regular Python. This is something you get. So Python 3.8. You can see that this is a bit different than the Spyder IDE. The IDE has a more user interface that allows for more touching, click, and drag. Meanwhile, Python is just straight up just command line where you just type anything, and it's not, I mean, it's ideal for quick calculations, but not necessarily to save the script and share it with others. So I definitely recommend not just downloading Python, the most recent version, but also downloading the associated IDE that can help you open up that Python and code up whatever you want so you can share and save it. So let's get started. And so the Spyder is reading off of the Python, like I said. There's tons of other IDEs like PyCharm and Anaconda as well. So one of the perks of Python or Spyder, or I guess just Python in general, is that it can do simple calculations. So let me start off with basics calculations. So this can even act as a simple calculator. So let's do 2 plus 2. And when we run this line right here, we get the output of 4. So this is where we type in the commands, and the back end of running this occurs down here in the console. So if you wanted, you could even do 2 plus 2 here, and you would get the answer straight up. So this top one right here is just a way of saving up what you type in, because nothing can be saved on the console right here. Alright, so we can do a simple 2 plus 2. We can do even a bit more complicated ones like let's do 10, 2 stars. So the 2 asterisks means exponents. So 10 to the 2nd power. Well, let's actually make it more complicated. So 10 to the 5th power that we can't do right off of our heads. When we run that, we get, let's see, 100,000 and so forth. So this is one perk of Python, is that it can do basic calculation like a calculator. Another thing that you can do is that Python can even print out whatever you want it to. So it can be used for printouts, let's say. So the most common one is printing out hello world. And when we run this command right here, we get hello world. So look here how we actually we have to put in a quotation mark, single quotation marks. And if you don't do that, what you get is an error message. So when we run just hello world without the necessary single quotation mark, we get invalid syntax. And the reason for that is because Python doesn't recognize these as strings. It only can print out numbers. So when I do print 3, you can see that it printed out just fine, but then when it's letters, it can't necessarily read it. So you have to make sure that you quote it with the single quotation. You can even do double quotations as well. So hello world, and you also get the result that you want. So this right here is called a string. And these examples that I gave earlier counts as, these are integers because we didn't get any decimal points. But let me show you another example of a number, which is it's something called a float. So let's see, let me just keep it consistent. A float would be something that does contain a decimal point. So 2 plus 2.0, you would get 4.0. And that constitutes a float. And how can we check whether these are integers, whether these are floats, etc.? So we can do that by typing in. We can check that by typing in type. So type, let's say that this, we're trying to check what kind of a string or what kind of a type this is. So a 2. So we would do type and then just type in 2, and then you see that it's an integer. So I just want to summarize that we have 3 data types that in Python. So we have, let me just do data types are integers, floats, and strings. So again, integers are just whole numbers, such as 2 plus 2 is 4. So type 4 is integers, type 4.0 is float, and finally type hello world. Or I guess if we want to keep it in this similarity case situation, we could even do type. I guess this is a question for you as well. How would we make 4 into a string? Like I said, we could do it by the single quotation mark. So type 1 quotation mark 4 and the end quotation, and see that this is now changed into a string. So a takeaway from this right here is that there are 3 data types: integers, floats, and strings, and we covered all of them right here. Just remember that integers are whole numbers, floats have decimals, and strings are contained in a single or double quotation mark, and contain letters, or it can even contain numbers as well, as seen by type 1 quotation 4 end quotation. Alright, and now that we have that, let me show you an example of program. So programming, showing you guys a program that says hello to user and let's say ask for age. So one thing about Python that I really enjoy is that Python actually can ask for the user input. This isn't something that I have familiarity with in R. So for example, if we wanted the user to actually answer a question, we can actually have this program ask in the console right here for user input. So as an example, let's say we want to get the, I don't know, we want to, just like here, let's just do example. We want to ask the user, what food do you like? And you see here that Python asks the question to the user, what food do you like? So we'll say pizza. And you can see here on the right that once we ask this question and the user put in the answer, that answer, or I guess in this case, that value gets assigned to the example right here. So when you type in example, you can guess that it is going to print out pizza in the output right here, and it saved it as a string. So this is one of the really cool things here, and I didn't explain this yet, but one thing about programming is that you can assign things to certain variable. So for example, it doesn't necessarily have to be input right here or user information. It can even just be assigning any variable. So we'll say like spam, let's give it a number, give it ham, give this like a 12. And when we run that, we can see here on the right, these are some of the saved variables we created. So spam turned out to be 42, ham was 12, and we can check that in the console down here. Ham is 12, perfect. Spam is 42, and now that these values are assigned to this variable, we can even add them together. So what is spam plus ham? And we get 54. Cool. One thing is you actually can't, I talked about how you can add strings together. So for example, if print, I think I showed you the example, hello world, and this printed out fine. But then you can also do something like hello world, and you get something similar. However, if these letters didn't have a single or double quotation mark, you would get an error. So let me delete this right here. Pretend that we didn't assign these variables to these values to these variables right here. So if we just run spam plus ham, let's actually type in print plus spam, you get name spam is not defined. So this actually doesn't print out as you would expect, like this right here. And why is that? It's because these don't have a single or double quotation mark on it. So if you just do print spam plus ham, you actually get something you expect, which is spam plus ham. So you have to remember, keep that into account. So spam, ham, this command line right here only worked because we assigned these variables to values, and it was able to add them up together and create a number, which was 54. So you really have to remember that if you want to keep these variables as strings, put in double or single quotations. But if you want to use just the values contained in the variables, make sure to assign it first, and then without any kind of quotations, use them directly. Alright, and let me go back to the program that I wanted to write. Got sidetracked a bit. So basically create a program that says hello to user and asks for their age. So to start, let's have the program introduce itself. Hello, my name is Spider. Hello, or actually let's do hello ma'am, sir. My name is Spider. And then have it ask, what is your name? And then we would ask the user their name after that. So let me just run this real quick, what it looks like. Hello ma'am, sir, my name is Spider. What is your name? So we'll say my name, go me, and just great, it works as intended. And with that name, I want the program to actually say something. So print nice to meet you plus name, the name that was assigned from the value that was assigned by the user. And then we can say, have the Spider say, your name is, here, the length. Let's do the length of your name is, and then we need to get the length of the name. So let me just show you what it looks like if I just do the length of the name. You get how long the string that was put in is. So you see it's 4, so we want the length of the name. And before I talked about how you can't, oh, I guess I didn't talk about it, but you can't have a string and a number or integer or float contained in the same sentence. So when you run something like this, you're gonna get can only concatenate or can only paste strings to strings, so not integers. So what this means is you actually have to convert this number that it gets generated into a string. So all you have to do is just add string right here, and that's gonna help it run this code. So the length of your name is 4, perfect. And I want this to then ask the user how old they are. So wait, let me just do print what is, actually, how old are you? and we're gonna have that be put in as the variable age. We'll do input, and let's run this, and then actually let me wait on it. And I wanted to, after studying what the age is, I wanted to print out that it really remembered it. So you will be, let's see, age next year. Alright, so let's see what's wrong here. So one thing about, here, let me just show you what happens if I run this. How old am I? So I just turned 26, or I am turning 26 very soon, so 26. Actually, this worked fine. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I see the problem. Okay. So I actually, let's see, +1, because we're predicting how, the computer is predicting how old I will be next year. If I said this year, this would be great. But I'm asking it for next year's information, so I have to actually add 1 to the age that I put in. But this doesn't work now, because now this is read in as a string. So when this is read as a string, that string is not able to be added to 1. So what you have to do is here is you have to add integer type here. So basically you're telling the program, okay, get the user input, but make sure to convert that into an integer. So when you do that, this age variable is now, the value is now saved as an integer, and you can add 1 here perfectly fine. But what could be the problem here? Here, let me just run the question as well with that. Oh, alright, there we go. I will be 26 soon, and it says can only concatenate strings to string. Alright, so what we have to do is actually make this into a string. Oh. So that it is, so when we're printing out string plus another string, so we were able to convert this, what was supposed to be an integer, back into a string, and then add in the final string, which is next year. Alright, so let's run the last bit of chunk of code and see what we get. How old are you? We'll say 26, and you'll be 27 next year. Perfect. Alright, now let's show that this program really does work, and let's try it. Let me actually delete all of this saved variable as well. Alright, let's try it. So, run this program. Hello, ma'am, sir. My name is Spider. What is your name? My name is Bomi. How old are you? Oh, so nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you, Bomi. I forgot to let me add a space right here for easier read. And run that again. What is your name? Bomi. How old are you? So, well, nice to meet you, Bomi. The length of your name is 4. How old are you? 26. You will be 27 next year. Perfect. So that concludes some of the basic introduction of Python. So again, we went over, so let me just do a quick summary. We went over integers, floats, and strings. And at the end, we were able to create a program that asks for user input and prints out necessary, or I guess prints out pertinent information. Great. So I hope you guys enjoyed my first introduction of Python, and really looking forward to doing more in the future. Alright, bye guys.